The audience is advised that the following program involves themes which could be disturbing for some viewers.
Tonight on Spotlight.
You're not interviewing someone who's saying to you, I've got it worked out and I've got all the answers. I'm not that person.
James Packer's brutal honesty about a lifestyle that took him to the edge.
I drank too much and did things I shouldn't have done, and I became self-destructive.
Manic depression, marriages, and the breakup with Mariah.
She was threatening to say things about me, and it was a train wreck. It was a train wreck.
Plus, the daily addiction he cannot shake.
Don't make me feel bad.
No.
Don't make me feel bad. Don't make me feel bad.
A billionaire confirming the one thing he cannot buy.
Money is not a guarantee of happiness, but neither is poverty. Neither is poverty.
Why James left Scientology.
I was good friends with Tom Cruise. It's Tom's choice, not mine, that we're not friends anymore.
And his superstar mate who's by his side and knows his pain.
Fame, I think, is sort of enforced mental illness.
More than a friendship, their families share a special bond.
I think Robbie and I have had an organic friendship.
Also, inmates sleep with other inmates.
That's coming up on Spotlight.
If this interview can help one person, that'd be a good thing.
Hello, I'm Michael Usher and welcome to Spotlight. It's hard to believe a billionaire could have anything in common with you and your family. But that's the thing about mental illness. It affects everyone. In fact, 1 in 5 of us are suffering with anxiety or depression. And while it feels like we talk about mental health more than we used to, those stories of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel, aren't always there. Well, tonight we'll introduce you to some people who've been to the brink. John Brogden is one of them. The former politician, now President of Lifeline, fought his way back from a very dark place and has now brought together billionaires, battlers, and all sorts of everyday Australians to tell us their inspiring stories. We begin with James Packer.
A point about mental illness. The stowaway, James Packer, would do anything to toss overboard. So, James, thanks so much for doing this.
Liam, pleasure.
Really nice of you to have the conversation.
Pleasure. It's, I think, known in the community that I've had mental health issues, and so I'm not hiding from it. And so I guess when John approached me to be part of his book, his pitch to me was, if by sharing your experiences you can help a few people, even if it's one person, that's a positive thing to do. And I think that if this interview can help one person, that's what that'd be a good thing.
John goes one step further than that, doesn't he? Because he makes a point of saying that he admires your courage for sharing your thoughts on mental illness and suicidal thoughts so openly and authentically.
I think that's very nice of John, and they're John's words. Listen, Liam, I'm not here to play the victim. I'm not here to play the victim. I think I'm a very fortunate person.
As the son of legendary media mogul Kerry Packer, 57-year-old James's mental health journey began with his first big step out of his father's shadow, while still in his 20s. He and friend Lachlan Murdoch went all in on a telecommunications company called OneTel. It was a financial disaster.
I had a breakdown after OneTel went broke. My marriage broke up, and it was a long time ago now, but it was on the front page of the papers every day for it felt like the biggest story.
One of Australia's highest profile marriages is over. James and Jodie Packer have split less than 3 years after their multi-million-dollar society wedding.
His first marriage to Jodie Mears ended, and his father bailed him out. James Packer's lifelong mental health battle began.
What does deep depression look like to you?
Well, I think it's different for every person. I think it's different for every person.
How does it manifest for you?
Well, I mean, for me, I've thought, that there are times that I've thought that I was going to go bankrupt, and I thought that, that's old saying, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, and I mean bankrupt. I don't mean have a bankrupt but still own a house. I mean
on the skids.
I mean and so I mean not enough to have how am I meant to look after mum? The horror of that. When I was going 100 miles an hour on Crown, I owed a lot of money. I owed more money than I should have allowed myself to be in a position to owe. So I had to pledge everything.
The Crown Casino bid marched James down the road to his next mental breakdown.
I think that looking back, I definitely went into mania in 2013. And when you're in mania, or this is my truth anyway, when I've been in mania, I feel at my best and I'm probably at my most unreasonable. And that, as I look back, that probably cost me my marriage with Erica. And I was probably in mania for a couple of years.
The shock split of billionaire James Packer and his wife Erica.
A short time ago, the couple released a statement which says it is with great sadness that Erica and James Packer announced their separation.
So should you have spoken to more people earlier? Therapists of some description? Or
listen, I think I was pretty uncontrollable. I think that, to be honest, I don't think that I would have been easy to.
Well, you mean you weren't listening to advice?
I wasn't listening to advice.
For the manic James, these were the Hollywood years. He was a partner in production house Rat Pack, mixing with Tinseltown A-listers and dating Mariah Carey.
Were there other lifestyle choices? I mean, did some of that other negative thinking in your depressive moments, did that lead to substance abuse, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too much into that. I mean, I drank too much and did things I shouldn't have done. And there's yes is the answer to that. I'm sure that played a role in some of my mental health challenges, no doubt. I felt very guilty for my marriage to Erica not working, and I was self-destructive. She deserved better than I gave, and I became self-destructive.
And there were headwinds. James's debt was ballooning. His Macau casino shares halved, and his sister, Gretel, demanded her share of their father's estate. James sold off assets and borrowed more, much of it personally guaranteed.
It proves again and again that money can't buy you happiness.
Money is not a guarantee of happiness, but neither is poverty. Neither is poverty. I would prefer to be rich and unhappy than to try and be poor and unhappy. I think my downs coincided with either being on the wrong medication or having too much stress at work. And when I say too much stress at work, that's code for too much debt and problems with the business. So either, you know, business turning down or, you know, royal commissions or being tossed out of China or something had gone wrong. You know, I had people arrested in China. I was caught up in charges in Israel with, you know, Netanyahu. And that same week literally was the week that it came out that I was engaged to Mariah Carey for a while, and that same week it came out that Mariah and I had broken up, and she thought I'd planted a story in a magazine about it, which I hadn't, that, you know, made her look bad, and so she was threatening to say things about me, and so I was, you know, it was a train wreck. It was a train wreck. It was a train wreck. So, you know, I think, you know, the times that I've been at my worst, you know, I've had, you know, I've had a lot on my mind.
It was a period that took James to breaking point.
I had a hallucination. I was sober.
Do you remember what it was?
I thought, I'm too embarrassed to even say what it was. But when I had this hallucination, I resigned off all of my company boards, called my mother and said, "Mum, I was in Mexico. I said, Mum, you got to come and help me."
James spent 2 weeks at Harvard University's renowned McLean Hospital, and for the second time was diagnosed as bipolar.
And then I think the drugs that they prescribed me, frankly, were worse than you know, whatever I was suffering. And you know, the latest psychiatrist I worked with told me I was bipolar, told me I was OCD, and told me I was PTSD. So told me I was all three. But you know, when I was just being told I was bipolar, my truth was that my doctors would do anything to make sure I wasn't in mania. And as long as I wasn't in mania, they were happy.
To blunt the extremes of mood that come with the manic phase of bipolar disorder, James has been through a medication merry-go-round.
The worst drug that I was on, I was put on lithium in 2022, and within 2 weeks I was a zombie. I was a complete zombie, and so, you know, you compare things like psilocybin and ketamine to lithium, but there are, you know, my experience is from, you know, having worked with psychiatrists in Israel, in Argentina, in America, and all sorts of places, is, you know, if you get put on the wrong drugs, you can, you know, that you can...
Can be just as bad as the other one.
It can be worse. It can be worse.
Right.
It can be worse.
Can I ask, are you on something now? Like,
yeah, I'm on something, I'm really embarrassed what I'm about to. Again, gratitude list. I couldn't. I have a nurse that travels with me. I couldn't tell you what I'm on because I'm on a bunch of things, and someone does it for me. So,
what about the other medication, like, you know, the Ozempic thing that's happening at the moment, or Wegovy, which is
I'm on it, and I'm putting on weight. So
you're still.
So I'm eating a lot of sugar. I'm consuming a lot of sugar.
Because you don't drink, do you? You're not.
I'm not drinking.
You're not drinking.
I'm not drinking. No.
So how do you get all the sugar? Is it?
It's just truckloads of sugar. Truckloads of sugar.
Well, chocolates and biscuits.
Everything. All of that. Yeah. All of that. Don't make me feel bad.
No.
Don't make me feel bad. Don't make me feel bad.
I'm not trying.
Don't make me feel bad.
I'm not trying to make you feel bad. But you don't. You just can't.
No. It's sort of one thing. You know, it's one thing at a time. I think I'm mentally a lot better than I was 6 months ago. You know, I went into mania in 2022. You know, and then from 2022 until mid 2023. You know, I was on lithium, so it's, you know, I lost the weight, but mentally I wasn't great, and you know, since then I've put the weight on, but I've been mentally better. So, you know, for me it's a journey. It's a, you know, it's not you're not interviewing someone who's saying to you, I've got it worked out and I've got all the answers. I'm here saying that is, I'm not that person. I'm not that person. I'm doing my best.
It's a work in progress.
I'm a work in progress.
Fair enough, mate.
Up next, the heartfelt bond between James Packer and Robbie Williams.
I'm everything they say about me that's good.
Plus, Packer's complicated relationship with Hollywood.
I was good friends with Tom Cruise. It's Tom's choice, not mine, that we're not friends anymore.
I sit and wait. There's an angel, contemplate my fate.
For a global musical superstar, the waters around Tahiti are ideal for a mini break between concerts. For Robbie Williams, it's more than that. He's not just visiting a good friend, but also a fellow traveller on a mental health journey.
Hi, buddy. Nice to see you. I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Good to see you again. Hello, James. How are you?
Where do you want me?
Gentlemen, Robbie, you sit right there.
Okay, go on, James.
And James, you're in the next corner.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh. How are you? I mean, where do we start? This is dare I say it, an unlikely pairing.
Yeah, I suppose to the outside world it would be unusual, but to us it's not that unusual, you know.
You know, Robbie's extraordinary to have achieved what he's achieved, you know, and to have done it from where he's come from. I think, you know, anyone, you know, obviously in Australia, Robbie's beloved, and I'm sure many, many people in Australia have seen the Netflix series.
I felt like I was giving more and more of myself away, to the point where you're not somebody you recognise. In the spotlight, you can't trust anybody. If you achieve a lot in life and you've got a lot to give and you've got a lot of resources, the resources can be taken advantage of by nefarious people that will be attracted to you. And
yes,
the same with James too. So I'm coming from a place where, okay, I know how much that hurt when those people did that. I don't want to replicate that with James.
As you spend more time together, you get to know each other better and you build more trust.
I look up to James in a lot of aspects in life.
For me, and speaking for Harry, speaking for our family, we've you know, so lucky to be friends with, you know, with the Williams, and it's a really nice thing.
Wives do the wives thing, and, you know, I love Harry, and I absolutely adore James's kids.
So Rob and I dragged up the rear a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Also, you know, inmates sleep with other inmates.
You've both been very open about mental health issues that you've both had in different ways, which is another common ground that you share.
Yeah.
You know, and you both are really living proof, aren't you? That it doesn't matter what background you come from, you know, mental health issues can affect you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about us being on the boat and talking about mental health issues, and the uninitiated looking at that and going, well, you know, they're on a boat, poor them, etc., etc. But it is that thing that you can't help your DNA, you can't help your genes, and you can't help what will attack you in life, whether that be, you know, Parkinson's, cancer, lupus, whatever. If something is going to come and visit you because of who and what you are, it will come and visit you no matter where you are. Whether you're in a boat or whether you're in a council house in Stoke-on-Trent.
I wonder whether, and I'm just saying this out loud, whether or not we're talking a lot more about it, but is the actual level of tolerance in our society? Has it improved?
It's going in the right direction, and you know, it used to be when I would say, "Hey, I'm struggling," it used to be another bat to hit me with. How dare you? You've got and you're experiencing. How can you possibly be? And it would cause me to be more introverted. Now I'm being applauded for the same thing that I used to say back in the day. But that's also another thing too about the same sort of illness that we share. It's a disease of isolation too. So my natural state of being would be being in bed all day, not seeing anybody.
You have to sort of force yourself to get up.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is too is like you do.
No, I'm like that too.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that.
There you go.
So very much like that.
You do have to have friendships and know people. Yeah. It's just deciding who's vampiring and who's not vampiring.
When you do both get up and start talking, you're actually quite, you know, likeable blokes.
Well, bless you. Here's what smoked me out of the house: having kids and the wife. Without them, I'd be a shell of a person. I know I would. People always ask me about fame and the addiction of fame, and it's like that fame, I think, is sort of enforced mental illness. It's the success that I achieved due to the calling card of my fame that I found the most addictive, and I still find the most addictive.
You think success is addictive?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm still, but also success gives me massive purpose to produce it again and produce it again and produce it again and again.
Do you agree with that, James? Do you think success is addictive?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think people who are enjoying success don't walk away from it very often. I think it's hard to walk away from it.
I love the fact that you two blokes are mates, because, as I say, you come from such different backgrounds, you know. But I see some real similarities in the way that the world has viewed both of you. Now, James will be too humble about this.
I'm not. Go on.
He'll talk it down, but you...
I'm brilliant. I'm everything they say about me that's good.
I see it as a very similar sort of path in terms of that public pressure, because, you know, if you fail, you let a lot of people down. And the same with James.
There's more similarities than there are differences in our life. You know, the things that we both deal with in our minds.
That's the point.
And the way that we choose to tackle them, deal with them, or not deal with them, are very, very similar.
It can happen to anyone at any time, and yes, we are, you know, as we've both said, you know, we're sitting here on a boat. I'm ticking my gratitude list, and so, you know, we're sitting here with humility and with gratitude, and you know, hoping that one or two people just get a little bit of hope from us appearing on camera, just, you know, to keep trying and to keep on, you know, to keep on going.
Up next, the point at which James Packer thought about the unthinkable.
How dark are we talking?
And why he left Scientology.
I was good friends with Tom Cruise. It's Tom's choice, not mine, that we're not friends anymore.
Can I ask you a very personal question?
Sure.
When you've been to those dark places, from what you remember or you choose to remember, how dark are we talking?
I never was. Listen, I thought about suicide, but I never got close to.
But you did have suicidal thoughts.
Yeah,
you didn't want to act it out.
I didn't want to act it out.
So the numbers sit around 3,300 Australians who die by suicide every year. That averages to 8 or 9 Australians dying every day by suicide. but multiples more attempting suicide and thankfully not completing their suicides. We've become, I think, very used to the fact that suicide numbers are pretty high in Australia. There are about half the number of people dying in car accidents that die by suicide annually across the country. We need to get a little bit angrier about this and do a bit more to see those suicide numbers start decreasing.
Hi, I'm Matt Caruana, and when I was 16, I became a paraplegic because I tried to end my own life. I severed my spinal cord at T12. I had a brain injury, and I had many broken bones. There were 35 injuries in total. I was an outgoing teenager. I was good at sports, good at school, fairly popular, but I started believing that I was worthless, and that's when my mindset really changed, the way I saw myself changed, and that's when I started considering suicide. No one used to speak about if they were doing it tough, if they were feeling down, they would just keep it to themselves. The biggest way that I was hiding the way I was feeling was through going to the gym. I wanted to be the biggest guy, and I got that. I wanted people to think, oh, he's the man. I wanted people thinking, you know, he's strong, he's tough, he's confident, and I didn't want anyone to mess with me.
Social media became Matt's mask of happiness.
How many photos do we take before we actually post the one? We always show our best sides on social media, or even outside in the real world, but when we're in our own space, does that actually show? So 4 months after my injury, I was still in hospital, and I was on a train with my mum, and this guy comes on a train. Before he even sits down, he looks at me and he says, "What did you do to yourself?" And for some reason, it just came out of me. For the first time, I said I attempted suicide. And he looked at me, he said, "That was pretty stupid, wasn't it? You're in this wheelchair, you attempted suicide, what are you gonna do about it now?" And that question, I didn't know how to answer at the time, but what are you gonna do about it now has set up the rest of my life. And what that meant to me at the time is hope is hopeless without action. And Matt, do you want things to be better? Well, you gotta do something about it. Let's transform that hope through action.
You don't see this at every beachside gym. And in many ways, Matt's altered state is more impressive than his former self. Instead of hiding his demons, he's using his amazing strength to help others.
I started speaking at schools to share my story for the first time at a trauma prevention program for young people. I then met my business partner, Keith Saggers, who was also my mentor. He saw my strengths and helped me amplify them. And we broke the Guinness World Record for the most tower pull-ups in 1 minute. He also inspired me to start playing wheelchair basketball. And I was very blessed I was able to play with the emerging Australian team. That was quite an honour to wear the Australian jersey. I became a Lifeline ambassador. They offer a service that I needed when I was 16, and to be able to represent them, it's very meaningful.
Suicide survivors can become guardian angels for the rest of us. Having stared into the abyss, they've learnt the hard way how to spot the warning signs.
I've been very blessed, I suppose, to go to different schools and be able to share my story, and the amount of young people I've heard say to me, "Matt, I've been thinking, feeling and acting similarly to the way you were before your injury. I've been feeling like this for X number of years, but you're the first person I'm telling." I mean, it took me ending up in a wheelchair to learn that I needed to open up. I need to actually seek support.
If there is any good news, it's that youth suicide is dropping. Most people think that young suicides are increasing, but Any suicide is a tragedy, particularly the suicide of a young person. So that's why we think suicides are increasing amongst young people. What the statistics show, very sadly, is suicides for men over 65 are increasing very strongly.
Coming up, Tom Cruise, Warren Beatty and Lachlan Murdoch. James Packer on the other famous faces who've helped him get through.
I've been very lucky. I've come across some amazing people in my life.
We've got a problem with how we deal with people in and out of the Defence Forces. There's a Royal Commission due very soon that will examine and has worked for years to look at what the issues are and how we can reduce suicide. We need to look at the recommendations from this Royal Commission and we need to implement them and implement them quickly so that we don't have a whole group of Australians who we honour. Every day on Anzac Day, we honour their service, but when it comes to keeping them alive, we seem to be deserting them.
Senator Jackie Lambie was medically discharged from Australia's Defence Forces in 2000 after injuring her spine in a field exercise. The former Corporal Lambie had suffered almost a decade of extreme pain and depression.
I guess my life was really down the bath plug for about 7 or 8 years. I hadn't been able to work. The pain was unbearable. That pain, when you can't move, when you're living between the couch and the bed, and it's not just for a couple of weeks or a year or 2 years, and it goes on and on and on, it just wears you down to nothing. All I knew was that I got up in the morning, I made sure that my kids had lunch, I made sure that there was some dinner on the table when they got home, and that went on for year after year after year. So for me, there was no... my life was very empty for a very long time, so I think that people just got used to seeing me like that. I was on multiple lots of pharmaceuticals. In the end, it just got too much for me.
After her suicide attempt, Jackie Lambie finally received the help she needed from the Department of Veterans Affairs. They took her seriously, physically and psychologically.
My suicide attempt, it sits in my life because it was a turning point for me.
Jackie says that if she can go from a psych ward to the Commonwealth of Australia Senate, people shouldn't be shocked at who puts their hand up for help.
No, it doesn't surprise me with people like James Packer because, like I've said, it doesn't discriminate. You know, he's got his own story to tell. It doesn't matter whether you're rich, you're poor or whatever.
I became a Scientologist. Scientology helped me for a period of time. Scientology helped me deal with my mental health issues.
But I take it from that it stopped working because you're no longer a part of the church.
So I'm no longer a member of the Church of Scientology. I was good friends with Tom Cruise. It's Tom's choice, not mine, that we're not friends anymore.
Well, why is that?
I don't want to. It's Tom's choice, not mine. And he was. I'll never say a bad word about him. He was a wonderful friend to me. He is an amazing person.
The other Hollywood legend to help James in a crisis was Warren Beatty.
Well, he's a wonderful man, Warren Beatty, and he is a wonderful friend to me. I saw him recently. I lived in his guest house for about 2 or 3 years, and he really was wonderful to me. And when I was unwell, he tried to help me, and I've been very lucky. I've come across some amazing people in my life. For whatever reason, I've crossed paths with a series of amazing people. Warren's one of them.
And a forever friend emerged from that one-cell collapse all those years ago. The deal James had taken to Lachlan Murdoch. It would have vaporised most friendships. But just months on, Lachlan had forgiven James.
Lachlan and I share the same birthday, September the 8th, except he's 4 years younger than me. And he had a birthday party for about 30 people, and I wasn't expecting, the last thing in the world I was expecting was an invitation to this birthday party. And so not only does Lachlan invite me to the party, he gets to the party and he makes this speech, and he says, during the speech, he says, I also want to say it's James's birthday, and I just want to, and I just couldn't, So
well,
anyway,
that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it was I've never forgotten it. It was one of the nicest things that anyone's ever done.
Up next, messages of hope for those struggling right now.
Try and keep going. If you're depressed, try and keep going. Try and keep going.
As this special edition of Spotlight continues.
I hope Profiles in Hope saves lives. I want it to give people a message of how to get through the darkest of times and the hope that they can stay alive and come back from a very dark place to live a fulfilling life. I've known James for over 20 years. He's been a great supporter of Lifeline, and he's also been very sympathetic to people like him who live with mental illness. So what James demonstrates is it doesn't matter how privileged you are, mental health doesn't discriminate. And the reality is his extraordinary honesty is, I think, very encouraging to people.
So wake me up when it's all over.
I guess one of the messages that I'd really like to try and convey to people is, try and keep going. If you're depressed, try and keep going. Try and keep going. I worry that people are over-medicated. Try and do a little bit of exercise. Try and keep going. Reach out if it becomes too overwhelming. I've been very lucky when it's been too overwhelming for me. For me, it was hugely important to have a couple of people that I could turn to in the darkest hours and, at different stages in my life, who were there for me. That was hugely important.
I'm blessed, I was given a second chance at life. And that's something that I want to make worth it. I want to do something with that. There is always hope. And we have to take action on that. If we want to feel better, if we feel helpless, we need to seek help. And help is out there, whether it's those that we love, our family and friends, support services, professionals, even services like Lifeline. I sit in a reminder of my suicide attempt every day. And it's also a reminder of, one, okay, what I thought was the worst day of my life has now actually been the catalyst for my best years.
I think sometimes it is hidden. It may not come naturally to some people, but I think a lot of people out there are just too scared to ask and don't know how to deal with it. Whereas me, I'm just straight in your face. What's going on? Right, what do you need? Well, we need to get you some help. I just tell them, you know, so, and I think sometimes you've got to just be like that around people because, quite frankly, when you get in the situation I was in, you can't see things clearly. You are really lost in the fog. You just can't see a foot in front of you.
And what all of these stories show in different ways is there are ways to live through periods where you want to take your own life, where you're experiencing suicidality, or in fact, where you've actually tried to take your own life and come through the other end. So I think it's really important that we have as many messages of hope that there is a way through suicide.
John's book, Profiles in Hope, is out this week and all the royalties earned will go to Lifeline. If this episode has raised any issues for you or the people that you love, you can contact Lifeline. The details are on the screen. Before we go, here's a look at what's on next week's episode of 7 News Spotlight.
A decorated Australian commando caught in the crosshairs.
They made it sound like I was a mass murderer.
Of the ABC.
It's accusing Special Forces soldiers of being war criminals.
Targeted and put on trial.
My experience with the ABC is they fight to the death.
A 7 News Spotlight special investigation.
They've literally added extra gunshots.
Heston Russell, war hero or war criminal?
How many insurgents did you kill?
That's next week on Spotlight. I'm Michael Usher. Thanks for your company. Good night.